Hello, guys. Welcome. It has been a long time without sharing any stories with you. Today, I'm going to tell you a story of how I learned English. English is not my mother tongue. I have some other language I speak. It's called Luganda. So, how did I learn English until this level? Of course, in my country, we speak English. Our education system is in English. From the very first time we go to school, actually, let's do this. Let me tell you how I learned the alphabet. Let's begin from that. So when I was a kid, my dad, my amazing dad, he made a chart, and it had he bought a chart actually, and it had A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc. And every evening he would sit with me and we would begin reading. You'd get A, B, B, C, C, D, D, until Z every evening. So when I began school, normally if your parent doesn't teach you, when you begin school, kindergarten, you begin learning English. So you begin learning the alphabet. So it's the whole education system begins in English. So the alphabet, numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. And I began school, kindergarten, and everything was in English. Maybe art, painting, everything is in English. Colors, everything was in English. And by this time, everything was, I could say, normal, easy, or I thought like this is how school should be. I didn't know in some countries school begins in other languages. For example, I think kids in Turkey, maybe they begin with bir, iki, which I don't know what they begin with because at home they speak the same language they use in school. So I don't know how your school begins. You could tell me in the comment section, how does your school begin? How is your first day in school? How does it go? So that was our kindergarten. Then we got to primary level. In primary, we are expected to speak English. I don't know how, but it's actually forbidden to speak any other language because, of course, I told you I have some other language, which is called Luganda. But 1 minute, I gotta close this. But in my country, 1 minute, I'm trying to close something on my laptop because it's gonna make noise while we shoot this video. So, in my country, when you begin school, I'm going round. What was I saying? I got distracted. Sorry, guys. So we get back to the story. So, in school, this is how we learn English. We do, of course, different activities, and our whole education system is in English. For example, mathematics, history, biology, chemistry, everything is taught in English. But how do we get to the fluency of speaking? Because you may learn everything in English, but if you don't speak, you will have problems. You will not be fluent. So this is how they teach us, or this is how we become fluent. First of all, we have activities that are meant to improve speaking. We make presentations. For example, if it's a history class or it's a divinity class. In class generally, the teacher comes with the notes in a book and the teacher dictates. So the teacher is going to read the notes and you have to listen and write. This teaches us to listen. This is how we practice listening. Of course, by the time I was going to school, the internet wasn't, there was no YouTube. I'm not very old, am I? I don't know. When you were going to school, was there YouTube? How was it? How was your school? Because in my school, our teachers got the books and they started reading the notes to the class and the students had to listen and write. So we listened for subjects like history because you have to make notes, huge books of notes. History, divinity, chemistry, I think they wrote. stuff like that. Economics, all of that is simply dictated by the teacher and the students, right? Or the teacher hands out copies of photocopies, and students go photocopy the book, stuff like that. So, first of all, dictation. Number two, what else do? We make presentations. I mentioned this briefly. We make presentations almost every week. So even if you're shy, you have to, you get to a chance where you have to speak. So we make presentations. The other thing is debates. Debates, these are generally done between classes. For example, we have, let's say, grade 6. You have grade 6A, grade 6B. Sometimes it's divided into colors, whereby you have grade 6 blue, grade 6 red, grade 6 yellow. And sometimes these classes debate against each other. For example, they give you a topic. Let's say technology has done more harm than good. Debate. So one side or one class gets something like, let's say, 6 representatives. You sit and write down the points, and then the other side to write down the points, and they debate against each other. It's not like if you're confident, then you can go and speak in front of the whole school. No, they make timetables whereby everybody, by the end of the term or semester, will have spoken. So you cannot escape this. At least you will have to speak once in a while. Like, everybody gets a chance. Of course, not in one day, but week per week, because this is done weekly. So every student gets a chance to have a topic to debate against the other stream. They're called streams, the classes, the divisions between classes. And the other thing, this is a horrible thing. It's both horrible and I guess it's motivating. If the good fails, whereby they force you, there is punishment. Our teachers, our dear teachers, all schools use punishment to force us to speak English. How do they do this? For example, in the morning, the teacher comes. We had different forms of punishment. For example, one of them was embarrassment throughout the day. For example, they would make a sack, something ugly, okay? And of course, we had school uniforms, and they would give this sack to you. For example, let's say this is the sack. The teacher comes in the morning and gives it to the class monitress, the class monitor, the lead of the class. And my tea is getting cold. And in the morning, the teacher gives it to the class monitress. The class monitress is supposed to listen out throughout the day, to try to listen to, at least try to get one student in the morning. And this wouldn't be very difficult because we loved talking to each other and gossiping. So while you're busy gossiping, if you mention any word in a language that is not English, so you might be using your local language or any other language, the class monitress gives you the sack. For example, let's say we are around 5 people seated and we are talking and somebody is telling a story in English and we are all listening. And then out of the blue, I'm like, gerçekten mi? I reply in Turkish, for example. What happens is the class monitress gives me the sack. I have to wear it. I don't hide it. I have to wear it. So I walk around until I find somebody else speaking vernacular or the local languages. And I would take it off, give it to that person. And then that person would walk around and until they find somebody else speaking the language. Sometimes people would see you wearing the sack and everybody would keep quiet. Nobody would talk. And guess what would happen? The person would sometimes take it off, hide it, or hide behind a door, and one of the friends would come and try to trick somebody into using vernacular or the local language. And somebody would try to, how do you translate this and if you used anything other than English, the other person would jump out of the hiding place and like, whoop, here you go. You used vernacular. So here you go. And this went on throughout the day. And sometimes it wasn't a circ. Sometimes it was, for example, they find a bone that is very smelly. Maybe it's for a cow, something like that. They would put a string into this bone and they would give it to somebody to wear it. And this person, it would keep on distributing throughout the day. And in the evening, this is what happened, my friends. The teacher would call, teachers would call the whole school, everyone. So from the kids to the eldest, so we won't say the eldest, for example, it's from grade 1 to grade 7. So this is like around, I don't know what age we begin. I think it's around 6 years old. 6? I'm not so sure. Let's say from 6 years old to something like 15, 16 years old. So you would all collect into one compound and the teacher would call all the class montresses of all these levels. Like I told you, we have, for example, grade 1. Grade 1 has 3 divisions, all 4 divisions, according to how big the school is. So they would call all the class monters, all montresses, and they would ask, who did you give the sack? Sorry, who did you give the sack? Or who did you give the bone to? And the class montress would say, I gave it to Maureen. And Maureen, come up. Maureen, who did you give it to? Oh, I gave it to her. Oh, I gave it to her. And the whole chain would be invited at the front. And guess what happened? The teacher would get a stick. He would lay down and shoop, shoop, shoop. And this is how it happened. This is how we were forced to use English in school. This was extreme. I don't know if you've been to any situation whereby you learned something under extreme situations or punishment methods, but that's how we learned. And it was weird, strange, but I thank God that we went through that. But me personally, besides that whole punishment and everything, I did English literature and I love English so much. I love learning languages. I want to learn other languages besides Turkish, English, and my mother tongue. I want to learn Spanish. I don't know. Do you love learning languages? Do you enjoy learning languages? Because when I'm learning a language or when I learn something new in any language, I feel very happy. I'm excited about this. I don't know about you. How is your language learning going? Is it easy? Difficult? Is it exciting? Do you sometimes go through under extreme, for example, maybe you're a teacher. Do you use extreme methods? Do you use entertaining methods? How is your teaching or learning a language? How is the process? And besides that, because this video is about how I learned, besides that, I've done lots of reading. I love reading. I'm always reading books. I'm always reading blogs. Of course, if I'm interested in the subject. If I'm not interested, it becomes very difficult for me to read. I'm always listening to different activities. Why do I do listening yet I'm fluent? I do lots of listening and reading because learning a language never ends. You might think, you might be saying, I want to be fluent in 1 month, in 2 months. Yeah, but learning never ends. It never ends. I don't know if you've gotten to a level whereby you think, I know everything. I don't think I know everything. Every day I can learn a new word if I want to. Every day I can learn a new way to express myself because language, it keeps on changing, it keeps on growing. So you shouldn't think, yeah, I'm gonna solve this language problem in one month and I'll be done. Not really. You'll have to keep going, keep reading, keep listening, lots of listening if you hate reading. And of course, you have to practice because if you don't practice, for example, in my country, Of course, we speak English, the education system is in English. But for example, if somebody never tries to speak, they will not be fluent. They will not have the confidence. They might understand everything in English. If you give them something to read, if you give them an exam, they might get 100 out of 100. But speaking fluently, it needs practice. So some people are very good in reading, writing, everything. But if you ask them to speak about a certain topic, it's difficult. They face difficulty. So all sections, you cannot only develop one section. For example, in my country, if they had only taught us, for example, if we only wrote our notes in English and they never forced us to speak, I wouldn't be this fluent. If, for example, our teachers never gave us listening practice, I wouldn't be able to be fluent, to become fluent. And the other thing that, of course, besides the punishment and the emphasis done by our teachers, I remember I had a book that had so many song lyrics, because every time during our free time we would collect all our friends and we would sit around one book. For example, it has a song. We all sit around and we take turns singing. So, for example, you follow the lyrics. Of course, you don't follow the lyrics. You simply sing to the lyrics in the book, because we didn't have cell phones. It was prohibited to have cell phones at school. So you could just sit and start singing from your head, of course, without listening and singing along. So we did the singing, we did poetry. I was in an English literature class, so yes, my English was supposed to be a lot more advanced or learn a lot more things than if I hadn't taken literature classes. Basically that. I can't remember everything because I had planned to make this video and I thought I should make some notes, but I couldn't make notes. And today I just felt like, hey, let's shoot that video. So I would like to learn from you, or to hear from you. How is your language learning going? Because before I made a video of how I learned Turkish, the problems I went through. When I was learning Turkish, I was an adult. Everything was deliberate. But while I was learning English, I didn't realize it was a foreign language and I was struggling. Maybe I was struggling, but I didn't realize it. My brain didn't register this as a struggle. Whereas when I was learning Turkish, my brain registered all the struggles. I felt I wasn't fluent. I felt I couldn't express myself the way I wanted to, and yet I didn't face the same problem when I was learning English, because I learned it while I was learning my other mother tongue, so it was easy. It was easy for me to learn. But with Turkish, it was difficult because it was deliberate. I had to cram the words. I had to struggle with the grammar. I even had no idea languages have rules. I had to struggle learning the grammar. I had to struggle. I remember my teacher put me in front of the class to begin speaking and I was struggling. I hated the games, yet they were games. So when I was learning Turkish, I was an adult. The struggle was real. But when I was learning English, I didn't struggle. And I try to bring this to my classes when I'm teaching my students. I don't know if they're struggling. If you're my student and you're watching this, you could let me know. Maybe in the comment section, or you could let me know. You have my number, my social media. You could text me. I don't know. But I try to think when we're doing classes, we are both having fun, me and you. You could let me know if you're struggling. Anyways, this is all for today. My tea is becoming really cold. It's at a level I should be drinking it. So I'm going to say goodbye to you guys. Take care. Bye-bye. Enjoy learning. Enjoy learning. Remember, learning never ends. So keep learning. Keep learning. Bye-bye. Take care.